campaign or whatever you call it, a war or enduring freedom operation, whatever name you may choose to call it, the bombing campaigns do not alter hearts and minds. They're the worst way to do it. In fact, they freeze people into positions, make further negotiations even more difficult. So where does this take us?
Yeah. Tell me, when this conference started? What year?
This is the eighth year now. Eighth Raisina dialogue we're having.
8th year.
Eighth,
so
yeah.
You started in 2014 or something?
Yeah,
Have you been interested during these years what is going on in Iraq, what is going on in Afghanistan? Have you been asking the United States and NATO whether they are certain of what they are doing? When they now Scholz, Baerbock, Macron and others say this is the first time when the OSCE Helsinki Final Act is being violated. They don't remember about 1999 when Serbia was bombed, when Joe Biden, being a senator at that time, he was bragging that 1 year before the bombing of Serbia, I promoted this approach, and I believe that we have to bomb them out into peace. When Iraq was ruined as a state, after Colin Powell showed a vial with some powder, and then a few years later Tony Blair said, yes, it was a mistake, what to do?
No, but that is a lesson which needs to be learned.
Wait a second. If you believe that the United States has the right to declare a threat to its national interest any place on earth, like they did in Yugoslavia, in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, 10,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean, and they have the right to do so, and you don't ask them any questions. And Russia, not just overnight, like they did in Iraq and elsewhere, but for more than 10 years, warning them, guys, you are doing something which is going to be very bad.
But I think the question has been asked.
One second. Not across the ocean, but just on our borders, on the territories where the Russians lived for centuries and centuries and centuries. So, if it is not a double standard, then I am not a minister,
The question has been asked, and the experience in Iraq, Afghanistan, everywhere has been that it does not make sense to get into these long protracted wars to defend these kinds of interests. US did not succeed. Why do you think Russia will succeed?
You being the head of such distinguished audience, I fail to understand why you don't understand. It is
no. My simple question, Minister, is what is the end game?
It is the war against everything Russian in Ukraine. Can you imagine that for example, in Ireland, they canceled the English language, or in Belgium they canceled French, or in Switzerland they canceled German? Or in Finland they canceled Swedish? Can you even imagine this? Of course not. But nobody lifted a finger, not the small one, not the middle one, when the Russian language was totally cancelled in Ukraine. We have been knocking on all these doors. OSCE, Council of Europe, guys, why don't you say something? Why don't you tell them to behave? And during all these 8 years, I don't recall that your conference was addressing this problem.
See, the question everyone asks here, and that's what comes from the other side is, the end to the war is simple. If Russia stops fighting, the war ends. And then perhaps there can be negotiations. Is there some end game which you are playing or the other side is playing? Where does this all take us? See, countries in the region are aghast at what is happening. They're affected by what is happening. food, fertilizer, energy.
Countries of the region are affected not by what we are doing in Ukraine. They are affected by the reaction of the West to what we are doing in Ukraine after we had warned them for decades, you know, that they should stop this expansion of NATO and pushing arms into Ukraine to prepare them for the war against us. I just participated yesterday in the G20 ministerial, and our Western friends were shouting in the microphones, Russia must, Russia must, Russia must, and all the developing delegates, they were also saying, you know, we want to stop the war when Russia is ready to negotiate. If you are really interested in politics and in the root causes of this particular situation, then you would know that Biden, Blinken, Stoltenberg, Borrell repeatedly stated that Russia must be defeated on the battlefield. Russia must suffer strategic defeat. And this, they say, is existential for the West in the context of global domination. It's a very blunt admittance, I would say.